This is the Transformers Glossary. Okay, first off, this video is meant to be just a primer on some of the more commonly used jargon and lingo within the Transformers fandom. This video is only covering unofficial fan terms, keep in mind. So you're not going to see terms like Autobot, Decepticon, Headmaster, Alt Mode, etc. There's a few asterisks on that, but we'll get to that later. Shell former. A figure where most of, or sometimes all, of a figure's alternate mode is composed of a shell that wraps around the robot mode, hence the name. If you can remove most alternate mode parts from the robot and be left with a mostly intact figure, it's probably a shell former. Examples of shell formers include Cybertron Thunderblast, Ultra Mammoth, some Age of Extinction Galvatron figures, most RC figures, and freaking HasLab Unicron, because, yeah, that's where our money goes. Kibble. A step down from shell formers. Kibble is any part of an alternate mode that does not seamlessly incorporate into the silhouette of the robot mode. Your basic standard human silhouette, if you will. For example, Legacy Dragstrip Spoiler becomes his feet, and the cockpit of Starscream's jet mode becomes his chest. So those parts are not kibble. However, the wheels and sides of the car that hang off of Legacy Dragstrip's arms are kibble, as are most of the shell components of a shell former. Kibble isn't necessarily a bad thing, as some of the bot's most iconic design elements can be considered kibble, such as Starscream's wings, Movie Bumblebee's door wings, Brawn's headrest, and Shrapnel's horns. Backpack. This is a simple one. Most figures don't transform without at least some kibble, and instead of having it hang off the robot and look unsightly and cumbersome, many designers opt to place the kibble somewhere relatively out of sight and unobtrusive, that being compressed on a figure's back, looking like a backpack. Many figures have backpacks, and they range from very well to very poorly designed. A good example would be Studio Series Jazz, and a bad example would be Legacy Breakdown Wild Rider. Generally, fans are more likely to accept a backpack if it doesn't clash with the character's classic animation model. For example, Kingdom Predacon Megatron has a large, cumbersome backpack, but no one complained in their mind. The reason the two Legacy Senticons get so much flack in comparison is that simply Megatron has always had his backpack, right the way back to the Beast Wars animated series, whereas Breakdown and Dragstrip's G1 animation models are slim and notably lacking much kibble at all, let alone a backpack. Gorilla arms. Oh, this is a contentious topic. Gorilla arms refer to any figure where the arms and hands are sculpted in such a way that bending the elbow up would result in the palm of the hand facing up or down, rather than to the side, regardless of whether or not the hand is molded open or in a fist. As a rule, any figure with wrist rotation cannot have gorilla arms, as the wrist can be simply rotated to alleviate the issue. For some reason, many movie Bumblebee figures suffer from gorilla arms, and even more bizarrely, when CG Impactor was remolded into Frankenbot, they changed the mold's normal arms into gorilla arms. Seeker, this is one of the asterisks. A Seeker is any robot that shares a body type with Starscream. Think Thundercracker, Skywarp, Slipstream, Sunstorm, and the Coneheads. The Coneheads are Dirge, Ramjet, and Thrust. These three look a bit different than Starscream, and they're named for their distinctive cone-shaped heads, but they're generally considered to be close enough to be Seekers as well. The name has an interesting history. Long used by fans before being officially adopted by Hasbro in the 21st century, the term was recently discovered in an old catalog from 1984, meaning that it was originally an official term, used by Hasbro, before being forgotten by Hasbro, picked up and popularized by fans, and then reintroduced into the official lexicon years later. Parts forming. That bugger. Parts forming refers to when a part of a figure is physically removed for transformation, then either left to the side or reattached elsewhere later on the line. Generally frowned upon, as it's seen by most fans as the designers just cheating when they can't engineer a proper transformation. Opinions have mellowed recently as Hasbro has incorporated it less and less into their designs, and it's generally accepted when used sparingly, such as only one parts forming, like the Earthrise B or Cliffjumper mold. Parts formers, on the other hand, are figures where all or most transformation is just parts forming. Traditionally loathed by the fandom, parts formers have been given a breath of new life with the War for Cybertron line, and been given their own sublines such as weaponizers, modulators, and fossilizers. Fans have come to love these new Partformers, likely because most of the figures in these lines have always been Partformers since Generation 1. Characters like Cog, Brunt, Slammer, and even Omega Supreme are given a pass in the eyes of most fans because they simply always been Partformers. And when they Partform, it's not the designers being lazy, it's just paying tribute to the character's heritage. Citybot and Gestalt. Gestalt? Whatever. I'm throwing these two together because they're mostly older terms that you don't hear as much anymore because they've been overtaken in popularity by official ones. A Citybot refers to any large transformer with a base mode or city mode. Though they're often called cities, they're more like bases, to be honest. These are now referred to as Titans, officially. Gestalt, or however you want to pronounce it, is a word that before Combiner Wars was used by fans to refer to the combined forms of 5 and 6 robot combiner teams. The Constructicons, Stunticons, Aerialbots, Protectobots, Seacons, etc. The word has been superseded by the much more utilitarian but less cool sounding name Combiner. Bayformers, used to describe the 5 live-action Transformers movies directed by Michael Bay, hence the name. The universe this movie takes place in is also commonly called the Bayverse. The new live-action movie continuity has also been given by some fans the Nightverse, after Travis Knight, the director of the Bumblebee movie that kickstarted the new continuity. I personally haven't seen or heard any mention of Nightformers, however. Gimmick. Anything that Hasbro would describe as a play feature, or a play pattern. Basically, anything a toy does other than stand there. At its most basic definition, articulation and transformation are both gimmicks, but the term is mostly used to refer to secondary features, like the Headmaster ability, or some sort of combination element, lights and sounds, or spring-loaded action features. Despite the negative connotations with the word, gimmick, referring to something just there for show value and kind of flimsy and not really doing anything. When the word gimmick is used in Transformers fandom, it's generally not in a derogatory manner. It's just our preferred word for describing what a toy does, that's all. And that's all for now. I may do another installment of this later. If there are any terms I missed that you'd like me to cover, please leave them in the comment section. If you're interested in learning more, I'd recommend checking out the Transformers Wiki at tfwiki.net. If you like an encyclopedic deep dive for everything I've talked about here and more, those guys are dedicated and I love them for it. If that seems a bit too much thing to wade into, you'd like more information than what I've offered, but you just want to hit the highlights instead of the wiki, I'd recommend checking out Chris McFeely's YouTube channel, where he does brief but informative coverage of all things Transformers in his The Basics series. It's truly excellent. A joy to watch every time a new one comes out. So, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.